Hi everyone, it's Rob Watson, the module leader for TECH1002, and this is the 21st lecture summary for the 21st lecture, which is entitled Collaboration and Sociality. What we'll be looking at in this lecture is some of the ideas put forward by Henry Jenkins in the Spreadable Media book about the way that the culture of participation around media and social networks has developed in recent years, and that it encourages a sense of what we might call curation, conversation, or what Jenkins calls curation, conversation, and circulation. And we'll look at this through some examples to do with things like YouTube, in terms of, in a world where, millions and millions of people are uploading YouTube videos all the time, the same as I'll be doing with this. How do we find the things that we're actually interested in? How do we engage with the kind of content that we are we respect and we like, and where it fits in with our expectations of kind of entertainment or information or connectedness with other people? So we'll look at this as a way in which we use media and online social media to challenge some of the more paternalistic views about media that have grown, particularly in the mass media age in the 20th century, whereby there was a kind of a strong sense of a guide, the kind of what we call the Reithian ethic, the kind of Lord Reith, who ran the BBC for the first kind of 20 years of its organisation, had a very strong idea of what he expected out of the organisation and the kind of content it produced and the kind of social purpose that it served. Well, we no longer live in a world that is defined by such centralising characters and with centralising impulses, and instead things like YouTube and social media very much kind of spread media out, and that's the point of Jenkins' book, is that if it doesn't spread, it's dead. So the concept of content curation it starts to take centre stage, and it's kind of in a world where there's lots and lots of things that we could be looking at, we kind of sometimes need a guide or somebody to recommend, maybe by a playlist or by a blog, or some way in which we can find those things which are most relevant to us. And often we get that idea of, you might see it on your music sharing services, where you get a prompt that says, if you like this, you'll also like that, this as well. If you like that, you'll also like this. So the process of curation, it kind of changes the nature of the way that we think about our media expression and our media engagement and understanding of participation. And Henry Jenkins identifies some key ways that this works. It kind of talks about aggregation of content. It talks about an organising sense of content and then a sharing sense of content. So if we're going to successfully play out our media in an online environment, we have to approach it in a very different way to the kind of mass media, the transmission media, the broadcast media model, and we have to approach it in a way which reflects a kind of generative form of media, and which takes our view from of how people appropriate media and use media as a kind of bottom-up experience rather than something which is imposed from the top down. So this means then that we have to think about how we understand and change our sense of know-how and our literacies, and the kind of focus that we give to kind of different kinds of activities. So we'll look again at the idea of kind of digital literacies, and the sense that things like gaming brings to, and multimedia, web pages, interactive documents, that they change our focus from being something which is a single focus to something which is a polyfocus, multi-focus kind of environment. It's no longer sufficient for us to be able to spend long times engaging in a single text, as good as that is, and that's still incredibly important. We also have to develop the additional skills of being able to manage lots of information that takes place simultaneously at the same time. And so what kind of techniques do we have for managing our focus and our attention? So we look at this in terms of thinking about the kind of tools that we need and the kind of way that we can use both cognitive thinking tools and social tools, interaction with each other, to kind of manage our attention. Because lots of people want to grab our attention. They want us to look at things that they're producing, want us to look at things that they're sharing. And in a way, we've got to be able to kind of identify the things that we want to share and the things that we want to see, which are of interest to us, and not be pulled away from that in order to just satisfy somebody else's need to sell us tat on the internet or clickbait in various websites. So Howard Rheingold suggests that the most essential skill that we're going to need in the 21st century is attention management, and this will come through in terms of a form of mindfulness, whereby, you know, kind of putting down our phones, putting down our laptops, putting down our computers, spending time without our technology is going to be as important, and managing our attention is going to be as important as being able to proficiently use all of the devices that we have, which are very exciting and very engaging, but which work on a level of kind of almost like a constant level of excitement. You know, Howard Rheingold says that, you know, flicking through your phone is very much like a case of it's being alert all the time. You kind of adrenaline is running all the time. You're waiting for the next message to come through. And his suggestion is that we need to learn to let go of that and kind of consider issues over the longer term and consider ourselves in our communities in a kind of face-to-face environment, which I hope is something that we've been practicing and being engaging and doing in our workshops. So it's kind of complementary. So I suppose to sum it up really is kind of, you know, the danger is that we suffer from information overload and the anxiety that goes with there, and a sense of attention management and mindfulness is something which will help us to navigate our way through the different claims and the different kind of pulls on our attention. Okay, so the reading for this chapter, we're looking at 21. It's the chapter 4 in the Delwish and Henderson book, the Participatory Cultures Handbook, and it's the Jason Mittel chapter about wikis and participation. Very useful chapter to be reading that one. And I've also put some viewing. And there's some links on the wiki. So the notes for the lecture, they're available on the wiki now. I've produced some PowerPoint slides which have got clips in, so as usual I don't share them. If you need to know where to go for the wiki, it's wiki.our.dmu.ac.uk and search for TECH1002 and the lecture notes section. So I'll see you at the lecture.